VDI, cloud desktops, cloud apps, cloud storage, outsource, stream this, stream that. I mean, it's kind of wild. There's a lot of different technologies that you could bring to bear. And I guess my mission in life is to keep us all from simply making those on popularity. And I think you can make them based on intrinsically seeing that AppSense is the best solution for you because of X, Y, and Z. We observed it. It was present. We saw it recurring over. That was my plug for you, by the way, because you gave me. We saw it reoccurring over time, and we're going to account for it, we're going to design for it, but we're going to continue that level of visibility so that when and if something does go bump in the night, I want to be able to pinpoint what it was. Was it a filer? Was it an app? Was it something in the OS? Was it something at a host or shared storage? So, actually, I just talked about that. So, one of the big things, I guess probably maybe 70% of the time, yeah, probably 70% of the time, at least my day-to-day life is spent fixing failed VDI deployments. In the beginning when we started the company, my business partner's name is Dave Beneman. He started a company called Vision Core and then sold it off. And so Dave and I think about this an awful lot. We thought in the beginning we were going to be going to all of you, and it was all going to be about conducting assessments. You weren't doing any VDI yet. You didn't have any pilots or proofs of concept. We were just going to go out and start from scratch, lift up the hood of your organization and say, oh, here's what you have, here's what you use, and then there'd be a cavalcade of vendors that would come in and tell you exactly what you needed. What was very interesting to us was there was an awful lot of VDI currently present out in the world, and not a single deployment was more than maybe 8,000 seats, but there were quite a few that were somewhat large. And not a single one of them was perfect. Not a single one of them was even close to what they would consider to be functional. Things were going bump in the night, and they had users screaming and executives pulling budgets or threatening to decapitate certain people, and it was, well, what's going on? It's a lot of moving parts. VDI can be complex when we look at all these different parts that can be combined, but what went wrong, and why did it go wrong, and what is the remediation path, and who owns that? It's another very interesting thing that if you're not currently arm wrestling with will probably come upon you, which is, do the server folks own virtual desktop? I mean, it lives on hosts in the data center. Or does the SMS team own it? Because we're still delivering apps like we used to. Or is it the OS folks? What about the network folks? I mean, hey, they're the remote display protocol and the final wire out to the end user. It's a great question. I guess our biased answer, and it's totally biased, is, well, what if everyone could have read-only visibility? Unlike AppSense and Josh's product, this product primarily doesn't really do anything. It might in the future. We kind of envision, we're taking about 2,000 measurements in real time. So we envision being able to flip some switches and turn some knobs and dials in the future. But what if everyone in your organization could have read-only visibility into their different silo of responsibility in VDI? So the storage folks see storage and what's happening there. They see the whole stack, but they specifically focus on storage, and I'll kind of explain that in a little bit. So how we try to get visibility is really through three moving parts, and so this is kind of the infomercial, I guess, for my stuff. We're three moving parts, but one of them, I guess two of them, are virtual appliances. So we have built a pretty cool 900 meg ESX, Hyper-V, Zen, Virtual Iron, doesn't really matter. You can run it on Fusion and Player. Virtual appliance with it's a hardened Linux VM with a little Postgres database on board. And this is where all these different measurements that we're going to be taking from around the environment get written to. And it can talk and sync up with Active Directory, so it's got awareness of your organizational units. And it can talk and sync up with Virtual Center if you've got some virtual desktops up and running, and that's pretty cool. But what's even cooler is we send these little agents out, or virtual agents out into the world. We recognized in some, based on some feedback, that there needed to be kind of two ways to deploy our probes. So the first way is about a 2.5 meg MSI that can be pushed out using any standard software distribution method. But its job, and this sounds kind of vicious, but its job is to inventory and interrogate the box that it lands on. So it looks for what you have and what are you using. It looks for how many screens, what's the resolution, what's the I/O to that local hard drive, what's the chattiness out to the network. And the cool thing is it does it on a per system process basis. So it's not just that I know Tyler's doing the following CPU, memory, disk, and I/O consumption. I know that it's Outlook and Word and WinPad, and maybe some other interesting processes that are running Hulu Desktop, Yahoo Instant Messenger, those core IT apps that you can't run a company without. And we kind of cheated a little bit when we started the company. We bought a company down in Atlanta, so we're based out of Atlanta. They had about 5 years of history under their belt. They had a really cool stack of patents that basically, kind of like caller ID, but we call it connector ID, put a thumbprint in the little 96 bits of header information that were available in TCP IP packets. And so when we put our little, that's another thing the agent does, when it puts its little thumbprint in there, it now allows me to watch Tyler and all of his applications and system processes and how they interact with the rest of the environment. So I see Outlook to Exchange, I see Tyler going to a CIFS file, or I see Tyler opening an email, right-clicking and saving an attachment or something like that. It's pretty interesting because now I can see bandwidth and latency as a real-time event. The consumption of my network, either because I'm thinking, is it appropriate for VDI? Do I have the ping power and pipe to sustain, a remote display protocol out to someone? Maybe, maybe not. How large is that wire and how much of it is being consumed by today client-server traffic? Or if you start setting up virtual desktops, you can do a little A/B testing. Did that traffic on the wire get better or worse? Was latency consistent, or was there one spike that just reoccurs all the time that might be a showstopper? Jokingly, this is a true story. It's I can't say the name of the company, but they're a large mutual fund company where latency was great. It's like 200 milliseconds from the Midwest to New York City. But every Wednesday at an absolutely repeatable time that no one could figure out, it had a nice little spike up to about 600 milliseconds for only about a minute or two. But 600 milliseconds, I don't know if any of you guys and gals have played with RDP, it just gets really messy. When you're waiting like 0.6 of a second for stuff to come back to you. That was a deal stopper for the entire project. Luckily they had the clout to get their carrier to fix that, but that was at the time a deal stopper. So anyway, all that stuff's written to a little cache file, and then we write it back down to a database because we think there's really good value in having all of these, correlated pieces of data in a little open database. So we publish the database schema. You can use our web-based UI to see all this stuff. We've got about 219 different reports that you can run, apps that are using up a lot of memory, apps that are using up CPU, users that are using up this and that. But we also kept it open so that you can do your own custom reports. We built in a little Actuate reporting engine, and I'm not sure if any of you have played around with BERT before. You guys ever played with BERT? It's like an open source version of Crystal Reports. It's like Business Intelligence Reporting Tool. Very clever name. But basically it allows you, with maybe like half an hour of a little half-an-hour tutorial, to write your own custom reports. And so our data can all be abstracted out through an ODBC connection to like Excel or Crystal Reports, or you can just write your own reports, which is kind of cool because maybe you want to see something like, show me users that use Microsoft Paint and have latency of over X and also are using the following system components, and just something that maybe you want to make part of your daily alert list. I think I get too many alerts in the course of a day, and so I definitely want to focus on the ones that I actually care about. And so I guess we didn't think we had all the answers, so we wanted to give you folks the flexibility to play with that. And one of the big things, I know Tim will probably ask me who my competition is. It's interesting because if you think about monitoring, and you think about a little 40-person company like us, there's no way we should be competing and selling software to the Walmarts of the world and the MetLifes of the world, but we are. And I think that the secret sauce is, there's Altiris, there's BigFix, there's so many ways to get desktop inventory, and there's Cisco, and there's so many, and F5, there's so many ways to look at network stacks, and you can look at everything from NetApp or EMC and get amazing storage statistics, but none of it's correlated. None of those systems today are giving you that single pane of glass that says, what is the butterfly effect? And when those users are using that app, what is it doing to shared storage? Or when we're seeing this on the network, what's happening to application launch times over here? So I guess that's probably our biggest competition. I don't want to say it's the status quo, because Josh already used that. It's a good one. I wanted to say that. But
you sponsor the feature and get it first next time.
Okay, go. Cool. But I would say that that's always a challenge. 9 times out of 10, some folks like the correlation. We're like a $30 per person software license, so it's pretty cheap anyway. But I think that's probably. I think there's still a lot of companies that are overpaying for software personally that do monitoring. So we wanted to kind of just be like, hey, everyone should have this and price it accordingly. Oh, I know one thing I didn't talk about. So there's kind of like 3 purpose-built modules or web front ends where we did a lot of stuff in the GUI, and I'll show you some of the GUI screenshots here. I didn't bring a live connection to do a demo, but I'll just run through some of the screenshots. But if it's cool, I'll give everyone here like a 20-user license for free forever, no SNS or anything if that's like legit. But I figured by asking in front of everyone, there's no way you're going to say no, Tim, right? Yeah, because just 20 users, it's enough that you can kind of see some stuff here.